Well, today, everybody, I have a very special guest. You may know him as Mark from The Room, but he's also the writer of The Disaster Artist, and he wrote and directed the recent Miracle Valley. So, I want to introduce you to Greg Sestero. Greg, how you doing?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good. My alien friend is doing all right.
Yeah,
And
he looks like he's had a little bit of red wine and he's just chilling for the night.
yeah, he's in for the night. I took his keys. I don't trust him in a UFO above New York City.
Is that where you found him? Is that where you?
I like to say I found him in a dumpster, but the truth is, I kind of adopted him. I needed him for a thing, and now he's just living here. So he really likes the legalization stuff going on. He really loves it. So, but Greg, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. I'm a big fan. I've seen a lot of stuff you've been in, weirdly enough, even if you've done just background work. But also, I've seen Best Friends. I've seen The Room more times than any movie I probably have ever seen, which I know you've heard a couple times. So before we begin on Miracle Valley, your new movie, what is it like when people say to you, Greg, I've seen The Room 40 times. How does that feel?
I think it's one of those movies that you want to show your friends. And so therefore you see it yourself a few times, you digest it, and then you're like, okay, bro, sit down. We got to watch this movie. That happens again. Then you start dating somebody. That's your intro. That's not for my intro, but I'm saying you show it to
right.
icebreaker. And then it just becomes a thing that over time gradually goes up to 40, 50 times. And I know for me, like, it's crazy. I'll be across the world, like right now I'm in Riga, which is right near Russia. And I get off the train and these guys come up to me and they're like, wow, we've seen The Room so many times. When we've been high, we turn it on and watch it. So, it's like those when I used to watch Back to the Future on repeat over and over. Now that was a good movie, but I think with The Room, it's just one of those shock value things that you're having a bad day, you want to laugh, you just pull it out and show people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that has been my go-to for showing friends. And I have to say, knowing about the movie helps when you're showing friends. So your book in particular, you get so much information. You learn so much about yourself and Tommy and the production. It makes the enjoyment of the movie that much more special because I can then tell my friends, oh, this is what happened here. Also, Tommy did something kind of weird on set that day. So it's kind of fun. Actually, that'll segue into, you wrote The Disaster Artist. Your audiobook was phenomenal for that. I'm sure you've heard many compliments on your Tommy impression. So thank you for that. Thank you for that wonderful audiobook. The movie was a lot of fun, but if I could ask you, was there anything they didn't include in the movie because they couldn't due to time constraints or whatever that you would have liked to have seen?
I think the book is definitely a darker version of the story. It's a unique friendship. There's twists and turns, and I think in the film they kind of, through lined it and made it a more inspirational story about friendship, that we both believed in The Room. We both wanted to make The Room. In the book, I talk about like my reluctance and my, connection to Tommy, which is, both good and bad. And I think they just chose to take it and make it a uplifting, positive story about friendship, about, wanting to go to Hollywood. I think it's way more accessible for a mainstream audience.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of darkness in the book, but also, the real life Tommy is a really interesting character. People kind of can't get enough of this dude. And I was going to show you my copy of the Blu-ray where I said, hello, Tommy, how are you? He said, I don't even know where I am right now, man. And I was like, yeah, that checks out. And he signed it to Vinny. He wrote BVI. It was amazing. In the movie Best Friends, your friendship with Tommy and the character that he plays, it's a darker friendship. Was that, when you set out to write that movie, did you say to yourself, I'm going to include some of the adversarial stuff that Tommy and I have gone through in our own relationship?
That was sort of, yeah, it was sort of based on, moments we've had in our friendship. years ago we'd take these road trips and it was really random. He thought I was taking him up the California coast to try to kill him. And I
Right.
thought, like, that's pretty fast. What would happen if I did try to kill him? I remember, like, how would he get back? What would happen? So I just started writing a script one night, had a, smoked a little weed and just wrote the script in like 4 days. And it was based on our friendship. And I thought, we could try to take this movie and explore sort of the darker tones in our friendship.
Yeah, there's a lot there for Room fans, but also if you're into that kind of drama, that's a lot of fun to watch. I was going to mention the football, but you've gotten that question so many times, not really worth asking. However, I will ask, did you pick up anything from Tommy watching him direct The Room, or maybe just your friendship, maybe you had him on the phone when you set out to direct Miracle Valley? That's your directorial debut, correct?
Yeah, so I wrote and produced Best Friends, and then I really, I learned a lot from Tommy in the sense of having a passion, having a vision, and following through on that vision. Because when you're making a movie, so many things go wrong. So many people are telling you, do it this way, or it's a better version this way. And he always just stuck to his gun. And because of that, The Room 20 years later is still something that baffles audiences because he stuck to his vision. So I just, I learned you got to really believe in what you're trying to do and you got to work really hard. And what I also learned was what not to do is you got to really have your team involved and you got to really have your team
Right.
believe in what you're doing. Because if you don't have a team, it's possible to make a movie. So I really like learned with Miracle Valley to get all the actors together, the crew, and just make it a really fun experience for everybody.
And the movie is fun. You're watching it and it kind of shifts, especially, I don't want to give anything away, but the movie, I had a lot of fun watching it, especially the end of the movie. And some of the influences of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in particular, I loved seeing some of that over the topness of it. Um, it really ended up being, especially towards the end, what I wanted out of that film. Also, I was going to mention the theme of obsession, whether it be your character trying to get that photograph or the cult. Is that something that you consciously put in the script, or did that kind of emerge as you wrote?
Yeah, it was sort of, it was based on a real life cult. And the more I explored it, what cults are really obsession and um, fanaticism. And I think, you got this guy who's a bird watcher who thinks he's going to get a photo of a bird that's going to change his life. Just absurd, ridiculous
Right.
things that the more I studied cults, these people believe. And so that was the thing with the movie is we took it totally seriously. And then we did a test screening and people were like laughing halfway through, like cheering and joking. I was like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
you start out believing one thing and then people receive it differently. But I knew we were going to make something far out and we were just going to go out, have a good time and take it seriously.
Yeah, it worked out. You also included some references. So, in regards to having fun at a theater, the spoons for The Room, of course. I saw a spoon in the film. I heard about the sex life in the film. So, thank you for that because my theater at the Alamo was enjoying those moments. And so we all got it. We all picked up on it.
Yeah, the big thing is like you got to honor where you came from. And the room has been something I've always been fascinated by. The fans have been incredible, so much throughout the years. So the actor who played the priest, Rick Edwards, he
It was
was
really
like,
good.
they'd love that. Throw it in, tap a spoon on the table, make it fun. And I'm like, I doubt they'll notice. And then sure enough.
Yeah, people seem to enjoy that moment. It was like the Leo meme, when he points at the screen. It was that. So, um, here's a question I had for you in regards to Tommy leaning into comedy. Was he a funny guy intentionally ever when you were getting to know him for the first couple years? Because it seems like after The Room really kind of took off, he started shifting his career towards a little bit more towards absurdity and comedy. So I'm wondering, did he have that comedic side?
I think he's just like inherently sees the world in a way that's funny. I'm not sure if that's something he can harness in a way that um, is enjoyable in a consistent basis, like The Room is. So I think he was approached to do a lot of comedy and things, and he just
That's true.
was down to try things. But I think it just the way he sees life is very, very comedic.
It seems like you have a really good sense of humor about the room's success and everything too. In another interview I watched of you, you said you've watched it with the audience a couple times. Like you've seen it like 5 or 6 times by now, right?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy that experience, or is it a little bit tough to watch, or you just say, yeah, it's just fun at this point?
I don't, I mean, for me, it's awkward. It's very cringe to watch like the sex scenes, and the ending is very cringe because, again, at the time, you're making a movie you don't think anybody's going to ever see. And like, I got the glycerin tears going down. I'm saying this dialogue that's like really forced. Um, but honestly, I've always, had peace with it. And it's been something that people love. And it's given me a chance to do a lot of other things that have been really cool. So, without it, I got to be thankful for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely allowed you to do. You told the story through the book. The movie was made of the book, which was in and of itself kind of a runaway success. It's a little surprising that the disaster artist ended up becoming such a big thing, and that's a great thing too. The book is fantastic. Your life story is interesting. How you got into acting, retro puppet master, it's fascinating. You were a background extra in Gattaca, which is one of those things. Watched that movie for years, and it's like, oh, Greg is in there somewhere. That's kind of
Mhm.
cool.
I love that.
So
It's a great movie.
yeah, I mean, that's you were accidentally a part of a sci-fi classic at this point. So it's pretty cool. Now I want to talk about your new film that you're working, a couple new films that you're working on. But first, I wanted to ask, in regards to the movies that we watch to make fun of a little bit, or stuff that's like kind of so bad it's good. Troll 2, Neil Breen stuff. Have you seen any of that stuff? Have you watched that with your friends?
I've seen the Neil Breen trailers,
It's all
um,
you need, really.
which is to me is the best because you can watch it for 2 minutes, get the sensation, move on to the next trailer.
Right.
But Troll 2, I actually become friends with George Hardy, who plays the dad in Troll 2. And we made a movie a couple years ago that just came out. RLJ released it. It's called Cyst.
Okay.
It's about a monster cyst. You honestly should watch it. It's pretty
Didn't
crazy.
know it existed, but that is a good recommendation for Halloween. So,
It is. It's a fun movie, and he's great in it. And we got to connect and talk about our stories and the weirdness that it's brought. And then also, I'm really enjoying genre work. So I'm going to the next thing I'm going to, hey, if we may need him, I'm going to make a UFO abduction film. So I'm going to send you the trailer that the concept trailer, and I'm going to see if you think it's real or not, or if you like the vibe. But I think
cool.
he'd fit right in.
There's two projects that I'm very interested in now. So UFO stuff is obviously kind of my thing. And hopefully he'll like it. And if you need him for like, maybe what you were in Gattaca, he'd be happy to be in this film. But seriously though, that sounds cool. I want to learn a little bit about that. But also there's a shark movie that's been in development for a while, it seems. It's you and Tommy again, correct?
Yeah, so we made a trailer like 3.5 years ago, and then COVID kind of stuff happened, and then we never made the movie. So sort of like the Neil Breen thing, it's just the trailer. The
it's kind
trailer
it's
exists.
kind of better that way in a way. Um,
Yeah,
well, that's
because you
cool.
can you can watch it again and again, and it gives you like an idea of what the movie might be about, but you never watch the movie.
Maybe one day. Until then, though, we have this potential UFO abduction film. Now, well, it is going to happen, correct? That one is
It's
real.
gonna happen. Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
gonna happen. Even though I'm gonna send you a trailer, it
Okay.
will happen.
Tell me a little bit more about it if you don't mind.
So I mean, this is gonna speak to you very well, but it's basically this kind of small town radio host who lives out in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
He was a sci-fi actor in a very bad sci-fi show years ago. And now he's sort of gotten into conspiracies and he doesn't paranoid, he doesn't trust anything. So he's running this radio show out of his trailer from the desert and gets this really weird call that sort of places him as the mediator between an alien race and Earth. And it's a little bit inspired by Art Bell from Coast to Coast.
Love Coast to Coast. Yeah.
So it's sort of a Twilight Zone type take on the modern look of UFOs and aliens and what that, what that all has become. And I started working on it about 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these UFO stories and documents. And my mom
Yeah.
she thought it was crazy a few years ago. And I was like, want to make a UFO movie? She's like, who'd ever want to see that? And now she's like, you got to hurry up and make that movie. Everyone's talking about UFOs. So it's sort of inspired by Fire in the Sky and Ex Machina. But again, it's one of those movies that I'm gonna, I've done a lot of research. I've taken UFO night tours, interviewed a lot of people, and it's going to be one of those movies I hope to get out there and have a good time making it.
Cool. Yeah, that whole world is fascinating. I mean, from the books I read and all the coast to coast stuff, and it's like it changes all the time, but you are correct. Like the past couple years, some of the declassification, even recently there was one where they were saying that they want to assign a team to research the UFO phenomena at NASA. So yeah, more and more. And so that's a good topic for the time. But I have to ask, if you're a coast to coast guy, have you heard the call
Yes.
with the frantic guy from
Yes.
Area 51?
That's what this movie is inspired by.
How insane was that call?
That's what this entire movie is inspired by.
Yeah, that's good inspiration.
I listened to it about 15 years ago, and I was very disturbed.
It is, and even if there is some like potentially post evidence about like how it could be fake or something, but even so, just listening to it on its own, if it's a performance, that is a hell of a performance. That's really well done performance. But even Art Bell was rattled after that one.
Yeah, he's like, "Can you tell us where you are and what's happening?" He's like, "That was somebody didn't want us to listen to that call."
Yeah.
I've listened to it many, many times because it's sort of the inspiration for the film. So I'm trying to take that call and then explore what that might have been about.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that is completely up our alley, and very good, very good. Well, I won't keep you too much longer, Greg, but I want to just mention your career has been really interesting, and now you're doing all this genre stuff. What is something, if you could write a film that isn't genre, that is something that, would speak to you, what would that be? Like, is it something related to maybe I guess you've already done autobiographical, so drama perhaps?
I think romantic comedy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which will then in turn, become a drama. Just like The Room was a drama that became a comedy.
Right. Right. You have to kind of do the inverse.
Yeah.
And I guess for the viewers, there's I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. You and Tommy are still buddies?
Still football friends. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, Greg, I look forward to any future project. At some point, I am excited to get in that theater and watch that UFO movie. So keep up the good work. Miracle Valley was a lot of fun. And I'm sure I'll be watching The Room a whole lot more with friends and whoever else, even like some gnome that shows up in my house. Say, hey, you want to watch The Room? Great. Nort's his friends. He's seen it. He loves it. And for him, that was like, he was like, oh, this is what I thought it was like on Earth anyway. It's like his interpretation of what he thought people were. So it's perfect. But yes, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best of luck. And everyone, keep an eye out for the UFO movie. Does it have a title?
Forbidden Sky.
That's good. Forbidden Sky. And go check out Miracle Valley. Greg Sestero, you are wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.